Once upon a time, nestled in a serene valley surrounded by towering mountains, there was a peaceful village. This village was a place where time seemed to slow down, and life moved at a simple, steady pace. The villagers worked hard on their farms, cultivated lush fields, and lived in harmony with nature. Amongst these villagers lived a young boy named Samir, who was known for his kind heart and a deep connection with the animals. Samir's closest companion was a horse named Thunder, a majestic creature with a glossy black mane and powerful hooves that thundered across the earth. Thunder was not just any horse, he was strong, with a sleek, muscular body that glistened in the sun. His eyes, deep and soulful, reflected loyalty, and his bond with Samir was unbreakable. Thunder was the one constant in Samir's life. Every day, they would spend countless hours together, racing through the fields that stretched beyond the village. Samir would mount Thunder's back and they would gallop side by side, feeling the rush of wind against their faces. Thunder loved these moments, his heart racing in sync with Samir's. They helped the villagers with their daily tasks, hauling water, delivering firewood, and even assisting in the planting of crops. Samir was known for being a hard worker, but it was Thunder who made all tasks easier. He was not just a horse, he was a reliable partner, a friend, and a true family member. But as with all stories, there came a time when peace was shattered. It was one particularly harsh winter when the village faced an unprecedented storm. The clouds gathered ominously, and the sky darkened to an eerie shade of gray. The wind howled through the valley, carrying with it the bitter chill of the mountains. By the time Samir and Thunder had finished their chores one evening, the storm had already begun to rage with fury. The villagers, accustomed to harsh winters, were not initially worried. However, as the storm intensified, the roads leading out of the village began to collapse. The snow piled up high, and the winds blew in gusts that seemed to erase all traces of the land. Within a few hours, the only road that connected the village to the outside world had been completely blocked. The villagers were trapped in their homes, and it was impossible to send for help. As Samir watched the storm unfold from the safety of his small wooden house, a deep sense of fear settled in his chest. He knew that if the storm didn't subside soon, they might run out of supplies. The crops were already buried beneath the snow, and the villagers' food and firewood reserves would not last long. Samir's heart ached as he gazed out at Thunder, who stood calmly by the barn, his black mane whipping in the cold wind. The horse seemed to sense his distress, but Samir didn't know what could be done. The storm was too fierce, the roads were blocked, and no one could leave the village to fetch help. Samir sat quietly for a while, contemplating what to do. Thunder, ever intuitive, walked up to the door and nudged it with his head, as if urging Samir to come outside. Samir hesitated for a moment, but then something inside him stirred. He knew that if there was any hope of getting help, it would have to come from Thunder. This horse had always been more than just a companion, he was Samir's lifeline, his rock. Samir quickly bundled himself in his warmest clothes, fastening his boots and wrapping a thick scarf around his neck. He stepped outside, where the wind bit at his skin and the snow swirled around him. Thunder stood there, his coat dark against the white backdrop, looking at Samir with understanding in his eyes. There was no need for words, they had always communicated through their bond, their shared experiences. "Come on, Thunder," Samir whispered. "We have to do this. I know it's dangerous, but we have no choice." With that, Samir climbed onto Thunder's back. The horse's strong muscles tensed, ready to face the storm. Despite the blizzard, Thunder's eyes were steady, his determination unwavering. Samir guided him through the thick snow, their path barely visible as the storm raged on. The cold wind stunned Samir's face, and the snow fell in thick, blinding sheets, but Thunder moved forward with purpose, each step carefully placed in the deep snow. He was sure-footed and steady, unlike any other horse Samir had ever known. They trudged on for hours, the wind howling in their ears. Samir's heart raced not only from the cold but from the sheer effort of battling the elements. Thunder's breath came out in heavy clouds, but the horse never slowed. With each mile, the storm seemed to grow fiercer, the snow deeper. Samir was beginning to lose hope. The journey felt endless, the path completely obscured by the swirling blizzard. But Thunder's presence gave Samir a strange sense of calm. He trusted his horse, just as Thunder trusted him. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the neighboring town. Samir barely had the strength to dismount, but Thunder stood tall, his mane now covered in snow. The townspeople, shocked by Samir's arrival, immediately sprang into action. They could not believe that anyone could brave such a storm, but there Samir was, with Thunder by his side, both exhausted yet resolute. Help was quickly organized, and the villagers sent supplies back to Samir's village. The roads would be cleared, and the villagers would be saved. Thunder's loyalty had not only guided Samir through the storm, but had also brought hope to a desperate situation. Without Thunder, the village would have remained trapped for much longer, and lives could have been lost. When Samir returned to his village, the people greeted him with cheers, but Samir only had eyes for Thunder. His heart swelled with gratitude and awe. The bond they shared had saved the village. Samir now understood the true meaning of friendship and courage. From that day on, Samir and Thunder were celebrated not just as horse and rider, but as symbols of loyalty, bravery, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship. The villagers learned that in times of hardship, the strength of character and loyalty can overcome even the fiercest of storms. And as the years passed, the story of Thunder, the loyal steed, was told again and again. It was a story of true friendship, of courage in the face of adversity, and of the unspoken understanding between a boy and his horse, who faced the world together.